And we're on. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, how are you, Jamie?
Well, I'm good, thanks. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first ever inaugural episode of WordPress Unplugged with me, Jamie Marsland, and
Kevin Geary.
rock and roll. Thanks, everyone. So this is going to be a 45-minute short and sharp episode. We are also scheming to try and run a live podcast from WordCamp US in Portland. So keep an eye out for that one. We're still working out the logistics, but it should be a fun one. I've never been to Portland, Kevin. What should I expect there?
Portland is it's good food and outdoor adventures. So if you like hiking, if you like scenery, if you like that good thing, it's a great city for that.
There's some golf, I think, right, happening.
Absolutely, yes, some golf. I'm not good at it, but I will be doing it. I will be participating.
Do you have a handicap? Is that a thing that you
I'm
have?
not there yet. No,
Okay.
we're not even at that level. Yeah. We are on the you play golf a couple times a year, a few times a year. If you're lucky, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Okay, so the format for today's episode, we're going to keep this pretty short and sharp. We want to talk about two things primarily. We want to talk about Etch, because I heard some rumors there was this thing called Etch happening last week. I was on a live stream. It was incredible. So we want to get into some of that. And we also want to talk about my new role. I want to talk about my new role as running the WordPress.org YouTube channel. So those are the two. We're going to limit the scope of today's episode to those two things. If you have ideas for future episodes, let us know, because obviously this is going to be an ongoing thing. And if you have any questions about those two things today, pop it in the chat. We are going to be limited for time because we've both got hard stops on today, but we're going to answer a few questions at the end. But should we start with Etch, Kevin? Let's start with Etch.
Let's start with Etch. All right. Well, first of all, I just wanted to get your, what did you, obviously, people had to go to the live stream without really knowing a lot of details. So in your mind heading into the live stream, what were you predicting? What did you think it was going to be?
Yeah, well, I firstly, I didn't get it right. I didn't pick what you were going to be doing in a lot of ways, which we'll probably dive into. I suspected it was some kind of SaaS thing, if I'm honest. I wasn't quite sure what some kind of SaaS thing. So I was wrong about what it was. I thought it was, what it turned out to be was probably far more interesting than I was expecting in lots of ways. So yeah, it was, I didn't pick it. So you got me.
Okay. All right. And then, I went through in the early part of the presentation, the 4 eras of Well, we're going into era 4, I say.
Yeah.
But the first 3 eras of WordPress, did that stack up with what you understand WordPress to have gone through in terms of some stages?
Well, the first thing to say is that Brits struggle with how Americans say era.
Okay.
And we struggled along with the Taylor Swift tour.
Yeah.
Which my daughters went to. So, for us, an era, you say error, and that's like a mistake for us.
So right.
Because
we do the it would be the hard R on, it would be error, like error if you're making an error, a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, throughout this podcast series, I'm going to teach you some some English
we'll
as
get
well.
this down. So you say era.
Era.
Okay.
Era. And
all right.
Yeah. So how would you say error?
Like you mean like a mistake? Yeah, the error. Like you have to put that. You have to get that R on the end.
Anyway, we digress a bit.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good summation. I thought it was a really good, interesting way of presenting it. I mean, the first thing to say, I thought it was an incredible piece of theatre.
Wow, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought it was and I was watching the live chat. I've never seen a live chat go so crazy. The live chat was, it was pretty crazy. So as a piece of watching from afar, as a piece of product marketing in alignment with what you're selling, I thought it was a really interesting pitch, especially as you don't have you're not selling, there's no thing yet, right? You're selling an idea. Right. But yeah, I think broadly I'm in agreement with the 4 eras of what you outlined. I'd have some questions around what, the view on the beginner market and how that helped grow WordPress and that stuff. Yeah.
You want to
broadly, I think it was a good, accurate description of where we've been.
Okay. Do you want to get into the beginner market thing, or do you want to just stick with Etch?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we'll get a bit. I mean, I think from my point of view, I think the beginner market was a huge driver and still is a huge driver for the growth of WordPress. And I think it's, in fact, I was only talking to my wife about this today. I think it's still a huge opportunity for WordPress in terms of, and we'll come on to this when we talk about the YouTube channel and some of the content I want to start creating for that channel.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge market, and I know you've got really strong views about who shouldn't build websites. So I think that was quite an interesting kind of departure from what I think WordPress is aimed at, or part of the market that WordPress is aimed at. For
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you about that, like in terms of, so Etch is aimed at what I would call maybe a disaffected group of WordPress users, agency owners and freelancers who they feel the pure block editor is not really the greatest workflow for them.
Yeah.
They're also not, super excited about the existing page builder tools. So in terms of Etch, obviously it's designed for them, but do you agree that they are perhaps a disaffected group? Do you have a lot of conversations with people in that group and hear from them?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that comment. I see them and I hear them and I feel their pain. And then you've got people on all sides of the spectrum. So you've got Brian Cords, who's a Gutenberg fan, but he still sees some space where it needs to improve. And at the end of the scale, you got other folks. And I think WordPress is kind of like always, or I think what is really interesting about Etch, and what I really liked about Etch, is the fact that actually it's acknowledging that, but it's also acknowledging the need to build on top of core, which was like, WordPress has always encouraged people to build on top of core for specific audiences. I think that's one of the amazing things about it, that you can do that with it.
Right.
And I think that's, I don't see, I know you see a huge friction in that, but I don't see, and I know you see huge frustration in that, but, and core could definitely, is going to need to make strides to bridge that gap. But I still think there is a room in the market for something like Etch to build on top of it that is going to service I think that's one of the things that really appeals to me, is servicing a really discrete market that you can really focus in on and tailor that experience exactly for them. And I think that's, I don't think that's a weakness of WordPress. I think that's a huge strength. And part of my kind of thought around it is that WordPress is now a modern development environment. So if you do want to do that, it's actually, from an application layer point of view, you can do that in terms of what you're going to be building. So yeah. I don't see such a friction in that.
Yeah. So for those, who didn't go to the live streams, they may not know. So Etch, one of the key features of Etch is what we call automatic block authoring. And so everything that you're building in Etch is essentially being assembled as blocks using core blocks for you, so that all of your data is existing in the block editor. It's not locked inside of Etch like it would be in a normal page builder environment. So it bridges the gap. It allows your clients or any layperson coming in to edit the site to actually use the block editor for content editing and simple layout editing and things like that. And it completely liberates your data. So it checks a lot of boxes doing it that way. And I guess what I would say is, was that one of the more surprising features when you were learning about Etch? And would you consider that to be the most exciting feature of Etch, or did you like something else that you heard?
Yeah, no, that was the most surprising thing, and it was definitely the most interesting thing for me, and it was actually something Matt Mullenweg mentioned. I think it was in Torino, about how he'd like to see page builders building on top of core, and actually it fits that. It was going to be, and the big question going around my head was kind of, I love the idea, but I was kind of like, I wonder who in your team, or whether it was you, that's such a crucial decision in terms of X. I was wondering why that happened and where that happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had tons and tons of discussions and debates leading up to what Etch ultimately would be. And, we're always looking for unique angles on things. We're always looking for how we can just reassess the problems that we're trying to solve, take a step back and like, okay, here's how other people have tried to solve the problem, but that might not be the best way. Are there other avenues we should explore? it was actually Matteo who came up with the idea of, we had talked about the block. Like, for people who don't know, Etch actually started as an idea for a pure FSE block theme. Like, that was the very, very original, because we wanted to get into that side of WordPress.
Yeah.
Then we ran into a bunch of limitations for what we wanted to do and what we wanted the workflow to look like, and on and on and on. And so we kind of slowly abandoned the pure FSE theme, but we still wanted to be somehow involved with the block side of WordPress. And it was Matteo who actually came in. He saw a comment that Matt had left on, I wish I had the screenshot of it, but in just a random kind of discussion board thing. And Matt made a little comment about this kind of thing. And then, it just triggered in Matteo's mind. And he was like, I mean, maybe we should look into this. It could be very easy to do, or possible at least, to write to blocks automatically. And at the time we were thinking maybe that would be proprietary blocks. And we, I came in, I was like, I really would love to avoid proprietary blocks at all costs.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think proprietary blocks would be needed at all. I think we could use completely core blocks to do this. We started doing proofs of concept and more testing, and then it kind of unlocked, like, yeah, we're pretty sure this can just be done with core blocks. There would not be a proprietary block needed, other than maybe a loop block. But
Yeah.
I'm not even convinced that a proprietary loop block is necessary. So we're going to keep going down that path. But Matteo is really the one who steered it, that automatic block authoring concept.
And yeah. I mean, that was surprising to me in a good way. And what's the kind of real driver behind that, apart from it being a good thing to do in terms of users? Because no other page builders, hold on, I'm going to get this right. No other page builders have that approach yet.
Correct. And it checks a lot of boxes. So we knew that client editing, safe, easy client editing, was a really, really important pain point for a lot of page builder users. They don't want, everybody describes maybe Bricks or Oxygen as kind of like a 747 cockpit kind of situation. And they're like, my clients can't come into this. They can't, they have no idea what's going on. And I've always said, as much as I dislike the block editor for page building, for website, like actual design and assembly, I think it's a really, really great and capable content editor. And so that automatic block authoring just unlocked the door to, like, hey, that's the client editing interface right there. Like, it's exactly what it was designed to be: nice and simple and clean and easy. And so that it checks that box. And the big box that it checks, the huge box that it checks, is the data liberation box. Because if I go build a page in Bricks, all that data is stuck in Bricks. If I go build it in Etch, that data is liberated out of Etch into the block editor. It's core WordPress. And then, of course, we're rendering the site with the block editor's rendering engine, not with a proprietary rendering engine like other page builders do. So there's a lot of advantages to that format.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
So now, I guess the other thing would be, some controversies around Etch. How did you feel going through the entire presentation and kind of arriving at the end? We talked about getting in. There's a lot of pushback, and I've wanted to explain this a few different times now because I've seen it come up over and over and over again. But what was your general feeling and general takeaway of there not being any Figma files or demo or MVP or anything else available as part of the process?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised. Yeah, I was expecting some kind of screenshots, or it's interesting. I was kind of expecting the key bit, because the key challenge for me is the bit where you're gonna is this chatting between Etch and Gutenberg, and that bit is really interesting technically. So I was kind of I was hoping to see some of that stuff in action, and reading some of the comments on. Some of the feedback has been people would like to have seen that, but it doesn't seem to have hindered people buying into the vision, which is quite interesting in itself. And also, I guess some of the feedback, I'm in the Bricks group a bit, and some of the feedback there has been like, I guess that's some of the bumpy stuff that you're going to expect if you were going to build your own thing. I've seen some of that happening in the Bricks group. So yeah, I was expecting to see, I don't know what I got it wrong to start with, so I don't know what I was expecting to see. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was expecting to see some kind of more polished, finished product, I guess.
Yeah. It's we discussed it as a team. Obviously, we could have shown things. What I ultimately decided, first of all, and what I would have shown is the proofs of concept, which there's going to be a lot of people. There's really three sides to this. There would be a group that would fully understand what they're looking at. Oh, I understand what a proof of concept is. I understand that this is all functionality. I understand that no thought, time, effort, et cetera, has been put into UI, UX. Like, I know exactly what I'm looking at. That's one group. Then there would be group two who'd be like, I've never seen a proof of concept in my life. What am I looking at? This looks like absolute trash. I don't want anything to do with this, right? Like, instantly they would write it off. Their brain doesn't understand what a proof of concept is, or how software is developed, or how we get to this stage. And then there would be the third group, which is, we would call them, I guess, the trolls group, who, they would take what's presented as a proof of concept and then go create essentially a bunch of negative press about, like, look at what this is, and it would just create a big negative experience, right? And then one of the main points that I made in the presentation is we build software with early adopters, not like for people. It's not, our team doesn't go into a dark room with all of our opinions and put everything together and then just come show everybody. What we've done with every single product is we build it with the early adopters. And so with that being the principle can't be, we build software with early adopters but look at all these decisions that we made without you. And like, here's the demos of all the decisions that we made without any of your input, and all based on our, theories and assumptions and all of that.
Have you seen a lot of pushback because of the kind of basing it on Gutenberg and Core? Have you actually got some of that stuff?
I thought maybe we might have to deal with some of that. No, there hasn't been any. I mean, there's been people who are like, why don't we just forget the block thing? Why do the block? And I think once they understand, it's not just to appease something. It's not just to check up. It has legitimate benefits, like major legitimate benefits. Even if you don't want the client editing side of things, just the data liberation box alone, checking that box alone is major.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think, in terms of your happiness of how it's gone, you must be, the sales have been pretty good, so you must be.
Yeah, I mean, we had 3 different goals in place. We had a minimum goal. It's like, hey, we have to do this to greenlight the project. We had a main goal, and then we had our stretch goal, and we easily hit the stretch goal and shut it down. So we have everything we need. We're moving forward, and we're super excited about it. The early adopters are super excited about it, and we're going to build something pretty special.
Cool. And part of this podcast, we're going to track the journey of this. So that'll be, you're building in public.
Yeah.
There's going to be some dark days and some good days. So we'll cover all that stuff. That will be fun to see. Which moves us on to my new role as head of YouTube, because we've kind of 20 minutes in. What did you heard the news, and what do you think?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I think WordPress, there needs to be more, and they're already doing it behind the scenes. Probably people don't know as much, but there needs to be, I think, more organization and camaraderie, and I guess just unity among the content creators that are part of WordPress. And I don't know what you would call us, influencer, whatever, but people that are dedicated to creating content and educating on WordPress. I think that, and I've proven this with Oxygen, I've proven it with Bricks, every platform that I've been a part of, at WS Forum, and education drives people to adopt. And if we want more people to adopt WordPress, we have to do more education around it. It's education that helps them use it, but it's also education that helps them just see potential before they even become a user. And if there's more great content, then everybody is going to benefit from that. Right.
You ready for a quiz, Kev?
I'm ready for a quiz.
Well, here we go. So this is a new item on the podcast called Quiz Kevin. So I'm going to give you I want some stats for what you think YouTube viewership is for these different web builders. All right.
Okay.
Ready for this? So we'll start with WordPress.org. Number of subs at the moment.
WordPress.org.
Yeah, this is the channel I'm now taking over. Well, I haven't started yet, I should say. I'm as part of when you join Automatic, you do like a 2-week onboarding, and part of that is 2 weeks support. So I'm currently in the support forums helping out. So, but from October, yeah. How many subscribers?
I like that format, by the way. WordPress.org YouTube subscribers. I couldn't even begin to guess. 20,000.
36,000. How many this could go on a while. How many I love stats. How many subscribers a month are they putting on?
Okay. So they've got 36,000 subscribers. I'm going to go with 1,400.
That's pretty close. 1,100. Feel free to play along in the chat, by the way. And how many views a month are they getting, Kevin?
I don't even look at my own stats.
Really?
60,000.
What was I saying? No, 91,000, which is pretty good. And they've grown a lot actually over the past. It's had a real focus, and the team that's running it. But that's where they're at. Right. Should we do Webflow, and we'll do a few others quickly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Webflow. How many subscribers?
Man, don't even know. 60,000.
No, 200,000. Let's take out the most interesting ones here.
Yeah.
How many views per month? This is quite interesting.
Views per month. They're over 1 million. Yeah.
Yeah. No, 365,000. Right. Let's do Wix. Wix. How many subscribers?
Wix. I would say Wix is bigger than Webflow. Well, I don't know about the creator side of Wix though. What was Webflow again? You said
200,000.
Yeah. Let's go 350 for Wix.
Wix is 197,000. But this stat this stat will blow your mind. And I think, how many views are they getting a month? Big, Kevin.
More. 600.
33 million.
Okay, a month.
A month.
Yeah, that's the ads. That's the ad money, Jamie. That's the ad money.
That's the ad money. That number's big, right?
Yeah. That's the build a website in 5 minutes with AI ad money right there.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about Wix in a future episode, probably. I was talking to my wife about Wix today. Right. We'll just do a couple more. Shopify. How many subs?
500,000.
Yeah, pretty good. 440,000. Let's finish off with Canva. How many subs have Canva got?
I've paid very little attention to Canva. I would imagine a lot more though. I don't know. 750.
7 million.
Whew, okay. Doing well. They're doing well on the YouTubes.
Yeah, I looked up I looked on Ahrefs the other day. I think they're getting 225 million unique subscribers a day or something like that at the moment. It's absolutely mind blowing. So I just want to, go on. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I don't know that I even know any Canva creators, but I imagine that there would be a ton of them, right?
Yeah,
I just haven't paid attention to them, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Canva would be right in your wheelhouse of Canva's it's aimed at lots of people now, but it's aimed at, I saw this great thing with Melanie Perkins, I think her name is, who's the CEO, talking about when she's trying to raise funding for it, and everyone was saying, why would beginners ever want to be designers? I thought of you when I saw that.
but that's really that's Canva's target market, right?
Yeah.
It's just like make it as easy as possible, drag stuff around, drop it around, and
it's kind of proof that there's a market, right?
I mean, there's a legitimate use for if you're, let's say I want to create social media graphics or something, like just quick and easy social media. I don't have to be a top designer with a top design. So I'm just trying to create like a social media graphic, put it on that. Canva's kind of a good use for that, right?
Yeah.
It depends on really what you're trying to do and what the consequences are of doing it.
Well, my wife's runs a yoga studio, and she's right in that sort of, she uses Canva for a lot of her social media stuff because it's so easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think there's a real market for an Etch type technical solution purely aimed at beginners in the WordPress space. But anyway, that's for a different day. Can I just talk to you? I've got some questions around my strategy for YouTube, and if anyone wants to chime in the chat as well, that'd be great. So I've broken kind of the content plan down into aiming at certain people.
Yep.
So I just want to run you through these, get your feedback.
Sure.
So beginners.
What do you want me to? What's the feedback you're wanting? A yes or no? A
I
yes.
want no feedback. I'm just looking at your face.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I already knew that.
Just wanted to
You didn't
say
have
that.
to list that one. That one was the obvious one. Yeah.
So beginners, DIYers.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this tweet from Katie from Barn 2 today, actually, and she was saying how anecdotally she thinks that probably 50% of their customers are store owners and 50% are
Right.
agencies and freelancers. So,
And just to classify, you're saying a beginner is somebody who wants to get into web design, but it's at the beginning stages?
well,
How do you
maybe, but
classify them?
they
How are you
might be
defining them?
looking, they might be they need a website. So
Okay.
I'm not talking no, I'm not talking about somebody that wants to get into web design at this point. I'm going to come on to them.
So what's the difference then between a beginner and a DIY?
A DIY is kind of further along. They
Okay,
might be
okay.
that they might be that person that's already up and running and they've got a website and they just want to know how to. They're kind
Got
of
it.
the next
Okay.
stage. Okay.
Okay.
But let me know if you don't think this makes sense. Designers.
Okay.
What do you think?
Pure graphic designers trying to come over to web.
Yeah. I think there's a huge, and I put this tweet out about this. There's loads of communities for page building and dev and all the kind of tool stuff around WordPress, but there doesn't seem to be any real content around, the real art of design and content creators aren't really producing that kind of content, talking about the rule of thirds or all that kind of stuff. It feels like a gap to me. What do you think?
That is the group that fueled Webflow. That's the group that fuels Figma and all of these tools for sure. Like Webflow went hard in the paint on Go Attract because they were like, hey, if people have solid design talent, which isn't easy to come by, we want to teach them how to build websites with Webflow. And if we bring these people with really good design talent over and teach them how to build websites with Webflow, we're going to go, that goes gangbusters. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's interesting. Where do those people hang out online?
I mean, in design communities, right? For sure. There's a gazillion Figma design groups. Yeah, I mean, all over the place, but they do tend to hang out together.
Yeah. Well, I think there's clearly a big gap in the WordPress content, especially on the .org channel. Right, agencies and freelancers.
Yeah, 100% for sure.
And if you were obviously you create tons of content for them, but if you were like tasked with creating content around core, because this needs to be around core pretty much, where would you go with that? If I said, Kevin, you're content lead for the agencies and freelancers on the .org channel, where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to create content around Etch because
no, you can't do that.
That's what I've said is like that's the tough part is for agencies and freelancers. They can use core blocks. They can, but if they're going to use core blocks, they're going to get stuck with limitations, which then is going to lead them into custom blocks, block extensions, all of that stuff. Or maybe they're using, maybe something could be considered a pro block theme or something, or maybe you would have to bring a third-party tool in, unless you're going to teach them how to do the custom blocks and the block extensions and all of that.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bring them into a third-party tool, either a block theme or a block system.
Okay. You've circumvented my question. You can't do that because I'm running the thing and I'd sack you if you did that. So I'm going to ask you again, what do you do?
Yeah.
If you can't bring in a third party tool, where do you go with it?
I feel stuck if in the current paradigm we live in, I feel stuck if we can't bring in a third party tool.
All right. I guess I can let you off with that. The next one's really interesting because and this is product suppliers. So this is where Etch might come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is your opportunity.
Like developers, you mean?
Well, no, I'm talking about we've got, if you go to WordPress.org, there's 60,000 plugins on
yes.
WordPress.org.
Yeah.
If you go to the WordPress.org channel, there's no mention of third-party plugins. So the problem with it from a channel point of view is if I featured a plugin on the .org channel, everyone would go crazy because I'm featuring somebody's plugin.
Correct.
So what do you think about that? What do we do about that?
Yeah, no,
this stuff, right?
Yeah, you're going to have to tread lightly in that regard. I mean, here's the thing. First of all, even if you did it completely honestly, and if you did it as fair as you possibly can, there will always be people who complain. Maybe you have to just decide, okay, that's going to be acceptable, or you just say, we know we can't please everybody, and that there's maybe some semblance of, if there's any semblance of unfairness or anything like that, it would be a poor reflection. So maybe we're just not even going to go into that territory. that would be something I would need to sit around and ponder further.
Yeah, it's problematic because it's kind of one of the best things about WordPress, but we can't talk about it.
Right.
It's
It's also, but it needs to be talked about because it's also one of the harder parts for somebody coming into WordPress. Navigating that ecosystem is one of the harder things about WordPress, and the thing that feels most chaotic to them, I think.
Yeah.
And so if there's no guidance around that, or even just no talk of it, it's like, hey, we don't really talk about that side of things, that doesn't really help them at all. So I definitely think some sort of plan needs to be put together in that regard.
Yeah. Well, if you got any ideas, anyone out there, because I definitely want to do it. I want to feature it. I've had some early ideas about formats that would kind of fit that, but not annoy everyone. Got some other ideas as well. And then the final one is kind of very important, but it's hard to think about making it compelling to outside people. And that's the community. That's the core community of WordPress, which a lot of content is focused on, which is kind of the internal stuff.
Yeah.
Which needs to be shown, but how do you take that content and make it kind of compelling to people that aren't in the community? It's a creative challenge.
That's something else that would need some further thought. I mean, is this all just you doing the content?
No. This is
what else is involved?
So yeah, my plan. Yeah, I should have said that. This is not me doing all the content. So I want to have content leads for each of these areas. This is early thoughts as well, right? I'm only like a week and a half into it, and I haven't even started properly yet. I want to have content leads for each of the areas, and we've already got some amazing content people like Nick Diego and Justin Tadlock who are already creating amazing content for this stuff. Rich Table, and I also want to definitely have other content creators on there as well. People, who are already creating professional content and find a way to amplify the stuff they're doing. So no, this definitely will not just be me. I'm going to be one of the faces, but definitely not all the faces.
I was going to say with the going after the design group, for example, you're going to have to be very careful in who you choose for that, because designers are very particular people, and so if they don't feel like that content is legit or like high enough level in terms of design, it's just going to completely turn them off, right? And now that you say you're bringing other creators, I think Brian Cord's, like, for example, would be, if you're going to go after the pro freelance side of core blocks, I mean, that's an obvious pick, So yeah, I'm excited to hear about that. The one idea that I had that I do think that you should probably consider is some sort of storytelling component to content, where you're bring in DIYers, bring in people who are success stories in WordPress, who they DIY'd their own WooCommerce website, and now they're doing 7 figures in sales with this product that they any story that is a success story that can be told and you can bring that person on. I think that would be a fantastic series also.
I think that's a great point. And a part of my, the main part of my kind of idea behind the channel is that every piece of video needs to play into the story of WordPress, whatever that. Yeah. And I see the story of WordPress at the moment of huge growth, and then kind of your 4 areas actually, and then a bit of a dip, and now it's kind of rebuilding and the kind of rebirth of it. And I think every piece of video needs to fit in that overall narrative of where WordPress is. I was talking to my wife today about what she thought of the WordPress brand, and she didn't necessarily have a clear idea on what it was, which was like, well, that's quite interesting that you don't. When I say that, I actually asked her what if it was a shop, what shop would it be? And she said it was kind of like an electrical shop, which manned by men that particularly don't wash very often. This is actually what she said. I'm not sure she was referring to me.
Yeah, hopefully not. No, I think that you're not going to get a consistent answer from people who work in WordPress. You're not going to get a consistent answer from people outside of WordPress. And I think if we can find a way to steer the narrative towards a consistent answer that everybody feels fits, that's going to be a big benefit to WordPress. Like I've said, I feel like WordPress has a little bit of an identity crisis, right? It's like it really needs to figure out what it is, what it's trying to be, and who it's really. I understand the let's serve everybody thing, but that's hard to communicate sometimes. And then we also have two sides of it, .com.org. That's another thing that, in my personal experience, needs a lot of clarity because people just do not, especially people on the outside, do not understand what's going on with that divide.
Yeah, there's some definite challenges in terms of the content planning. But the key bit is just to create some amazing content, right? That's going to draw people into the project. That's,
and putting somebody on it like you that's dedicated to doing it, and then getting creators on calls and having these discussions, and this is all moving WordPress in the right direction. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'm completely obsessed. This is literally all I think about, and have done for about a year in terms of this stuff. So it's it feels like the perfect job for me at the moment. So if anyone has any, wants to get involved, has ideas, is creating interesting content, has format ideas, let me know. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
And we're going to track the progress of this one as well. I'll report back and give you updates of how we're going, and we'll highlight some of the cool stuff going on and amplify people that are creating cool content as well. That's part of the plan. Fantastic. All right. I think that's covered YouTube for now. But anything else to add? Should we take some questions? Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, let's get 10 minutes of questions in.
Guys, if you've got questions, if you could put #Q, I think that's the convention, right, Kevin?
Mm-hmm. I think we can search on here.
And by the way, once we've sorted out the technology, which is on you, Kevin, right? This is going to be published to all the normal podcast channels.
Yeah, you'll be able to subscribe in any favorite podcast app that you use, and fully distributed.
Yeah.
You want to pick them, or you want me to pick them? We've got a few in the queue.
I can't see any, so yeah, you pick.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see. I'll try to avoid the ones that are just like on Etch.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Why not release them inside it? Okay. If a designer, for example, needs design tools. Okay. Maybe we'll elevate this one from Toby. If a designer, for example, who needs just design tools sees things meant for developers, won't that make the interface exceptionally overwhelming?
If a designer, for example, who needs just design tools sees things meant for developers, won't that make the interface exceptionally overwhelming? Can you clarify that one for me, Kevin?
I think that I think Webflow has kind of proven that this is not the case. In my personal experience, bringing designers into WordPress, it's not the case. But Webflow said, "Hey, we're going to go out and get a bunch of talented designers, and we're going to bring them into Webflow." And Webflow is not a streamlined interface. Webflow is not a simple interface. Webflow is much like the 747 cockpit interface. And yes, people will absolutely be scared of that kind of interface if they don't have any education. But that's why we're talking about this. That's why we're talking about education. And so when you give them the education, and Webflow invested millions of dollars in top quality education, and now designers absolutely love Webflow. So we can do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and I think there's room in this for it not to be tied to WordPress, frankly, just in terms of great design. There's all sorts of design principles you can cover without having to get into the tooling of it, which I'd love to do some stuff around that.
That's actually probably a better way to do it, because you're going to get a lot of designers' attentions just coming to hear this great design content. And then, of course, they're going to learn by proxy that, this is a WordPress thing, and then you can do these things on WordPress, and it's going to help them be introduced to the idea of using WordPress.
Yeah. Speaking of exciting formats, Kevin, when are you going to come on a speed build?
We can get it done. I have objected to. I can make some concessions. I can put some things aside. I've said that I'm not we'll probably talk about this on a future episode. I'm not a huge fan of the speed build format.
Come on.
Let's come on. Caveat is, unless it's just like has that badge that's like, this is for entertainment value only, because we're going to skip the way we would normally do things in order for the entertainment of the speed build, right? Yeah. So if we're going to put that badge on it, then I think that's fine.
I mean, when you say a badge, you want a big sign on the thing as you're doing it?
Like it says now, Kevin Geary. So instead of just replace Geary.co with for entertainment purposes only.
I think we're pretty clear on that. I think we're pretty clear on that when we do the speed builds, right? People are always saying, Brian Cords came on it. He was very, very clear that this is not the way he would build a site, right?
Yes. And so if people are watching, I just didn't want beginners, for example, to get the wrong impression of like, oh, that's how I should do it. Like I should do things this way.
Yeah.
If they understand that this is just like these people are professionals. They do things a different way, but we have this entertaining format where, we're just here to see what they can slap together. That's fine.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll have to take that as a yes, I think. Great.
Yeah, we can get it done.
Cool. Who do you want to compete against?
You pick. I don't anybody. What the downside of the existing speed builds, I think, is it's been very, very heavy block editor, right?
Yeah.
We do need to now. Here's the only thing, I could do it in bricks. It would be a little bit before I'm able to do it in Etch, but like ideally, maybe it would be done in Etch. Or of course, I could probably always come back. You've had Brian more than once, I think, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we do more than one speed build.
Yeah, it'd be quite fun to see you do it in Gutenberg, actually. I mean, if you're up for that.
That will not be a speed build, though, Jamie. That will be me hunting and pecking for what's going on in Gutenberg.
Well, maybe we spin the wheel and like what is it? Is it Wix or is it bricks?
Yeah, you haven't had any non-WordPress, right?
Well, I've been trying to line up some non-WordPress, but we're struggling a bit at the moment. I've Webflow, almost got a Webflow going. So if anyone out there uses Webflow or Wix, please contact me. Come on the speed build. We really want to see that. Right. How are we doing for questions?
SK says, it makes more sense to create videos to show WordPress people how to have good design sense while coding. Big issue with DIY WordPress sites is that it looks ugly or outdated, even many WP influencer sites.
He's talking about my site, I think, probably there, is he? He's been over my website today.
Don't know. I'm not sure. It sounded more like a point than a question. In fact, it doesn't have a question mark on the end. So I don't know if it is in fact a question.
It's just a statement of fact.
Yes.
I mean, I take that point, but I do think there's so many tutorials out there around the tooling. I'd love to see just some purebred design stuff going on.
This one's for you, Jamie, because I think people know what my position is on this. But which features currently provided by plugins would you like to see in Core?
That's a great question. Thanks for that. Why should I answer that? Not you. No, I'm going to answer that.
I've answered it a bunch of times. I mean, I can answer it again, but
yeah, I think I'm going to say responsive controls. There we go. Nice and simple.
100%. I would 100% agree with that.
There's movement. Okay. There's movement on that from what I'm reading the runes.
Is there?
Well,
is there a working? Is there like we're talking?
There's definitely
submitted something.
There's definitely conversations. So, okay. that for me would satisfy a lot of people. So yeah, that's the one thing I'd like to see.
Daniel says a lot of necessary WP features are in plugins, not Core. I get that you can't promote just gravity forms, but why couldn't you do a video for newbies explaining the strengths of the top 5?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I want to find, Daniel. So thank you. I want to find formats that do exactly that kind of thing, that don't annoy everyone, but also highlight the coolness around plugins. So thank you.
I think that's one of the areas where you're probably going to just have to chalk it up to, like, I'm going to get criticism, no matter, because now it's going to be a question of, well, how did you decide the top 5? And then I'm number 6. Why did you do 5 instead of 10? Like, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but we've got to do it. I don't think we can not do it. It's double negative, but we've got to do it because it's like 60,000 plugins. We've got to, we've got to help amplify people, help the ecosystem, right?
Yes. I know that it's how you choose the top 5, I think, is going to be, and maybe I don't know. I don't even know how to do it. We have to think of different formats, but you can't just go by install numbers. You can't just go there's other factors that have to absolutely come into play there.
How many beers people buy me, I guess, would be one.
Well, that's you're gonna have a tough time saying that's impartial. So
that's English humor for anyone. Don't take that the wrong way. That's clearly not what's going to happen. Okay, Eric. Gutenberg has changed so rapidly. I'd love to see either both of you do a full step-by-step listing site with Gutenberg, tutorial with dynamic data, and if possible, faceted search. Well, that's not going to be a speed build, but I like the idea.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah.
I've done these. I've done full builds many times, full builds. And what I've found is that, most of the work that we do is front loaded. You do a lot of work on the front end of building a website, and then a lot of that work is reused throughout the website. So people always request full builds, but really what you need is to see most of the front loaded work. You don't actually need to see how that's then applied over and over and over and over again on every other page. So
Yeah,
it's tough to do that.
I used to run a publishing business in a previous life, so it's an area I love, and we sold classified listings. So and we had a team of salespeople selling listings. So it's an area, an application I know with deeply. And it's a bit, I'm not sure there's definitely plugins that do this, but there's no it's a bit surprising there's no sort of SaaS turnkey solution for something like that. It's a big old market. But anyway, there we go.
This will be for you, Jamie. Are you going to get a accessibility expert to do kind of a series on accessibility stuff?
Yes. In fact, I've got one at the Amber Hines is on stage in Portland next Thursday. Are you coming to that, Kevin?
Yes, I will be at that.
That's cool. She's going to be doing the speed build. So as part of that, and Brian's been practicing. Brian Cords is up against her on stage.
I've been watching him. He's studying. He's practicing. He's looking good.
So seriously,
he's looking good.
But I think one of the criteria afterwards, how we judge that, should be accessibility. So yeah, absolutely, we're going to do some accessibility for sure.
Cool. Let's do one more, maybe.
Let's take one more,
see.
And then we'll wrap
This
it
is
up.
really just another request, I guess. But speaking more about responsiveness, and that's you're making Gutenberg videos. That is one of the tough. How are you handling that right now, by the way? Do you go in that direction at all?
I generally create designs that kind of, I'm going to say, intrinsically work.
Yeah, they're intrinsically responsive, right?
Yeah, but it is one of the comments people make on my videos that I don't often show the responsive layouts. In fact, I've done one today where I didn't do it, even though it was responsive. I just didn't do it. So, yeah, it's a great question. So, yeah, noted. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, well, I think that's probably 45 minutes. Thanks everyone for watching. Next episode coming at you, hopefully from Portland, if we can find a great location with the backdrops of mountains. I think, Kevin, that's the plan, right?
That's the plan.
And safe flight.
You as well.
How long's your flight?
4.5 hours, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Mine's only 10 hours, so
you'll love it coming in, though. I mean, I've flown out there once, at least from my direction. You fly literally right past Mount Hood. You look out. Yeah, you look out it's like right there.
I don't know Mount Hood. That's a tall mountain, though.
It's a giant mountain. Yeah, it's a very big mountain, and it's right out the window, and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I'll see you in the States.
Absolutely. Look forward to connecting.
Yeah, it'll be great. And thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll see you soon. Good night.
See you guys.